Hare Krishna. It seems Vatsala Mataji has not joined. Jyoti Mataji, can you please recite instead?
Yes, Mataji. Is Prabhuji going to start? Mataji, up to what text are we reading? 1 to?
1 to 18, Mataji.
Okay. Prabhuji can start, please.
Yes, please, Mataji. Thank you. Venkat Prabhuji, are you there?
Prabhuji, we can't hear you. Maybe you're on mute?
भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnation or Considered. Okay, text 1. Brahma Uvacha Yatro Datya Shitita Loksha Dharanyaya Vibratam Kaundim Tanu Sakala यायमीयेमन अन्तः अन्तर्महानन्व उपागतम् आदिदैत्यं तं दष्ट्यामद्रिमेव व्रजधरो ददार.
Lord Brahma said, when the unlimited powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to lift the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called the Garbhodaka, the first demon Hiranyaksha appeared, and the Lord pierced him with his tusk.
Text 2. Jato ruchira janayata suyamana suyagna akruti sunor maha mara natha dakshinayam lokatrayasya mahitim harada yadartya swayambhuvena manuna hariritya nukrata.
The Prajapati first begot Suyajna in the womb of his wife Akuti, and then Suyajna begot demigods, headed by Suyama, in the womb of his wife Daksina. Suyajna, as the Indradev, diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Manu.
Text 3. Jagne cha kardam gruhe dvija devahutayam sribhi sama nava viratya gatim swa matre uchai yayatma samalam guna sankalpakang.
The Lord then appeared as the Kapila incarnation, being the son of the Prajapati Brahmana Kadama and his wife Devahuti, along with 9 other women sisters. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which in that very lifetime she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila.
Text 4. Atrera patyamabhiktandakshat ahatrashta dato mayahamiti yad bhagwan sadattah yad pada pankaja jara parag pavitra deha yoga yogadra trima purubaryam yaduhaya yadyaha.
The great sage Atri prayed for offspring, and the Lord, being satisfied with him, promised to incarnate as Atri's son, Dattatreya, Datta the son of Atri, and by the grace of the lotus feet of the Lord, many Yadus, Hayas, etc., became so purified that they obtained both material and spiritual blessings.
Text 5. Tapta tapo vividaloka Shishurshayame Ado sanata swatapasha Sachatrusha shano abhutaha Pravakalpa samalpava Vinastamihatmatattvaha Samaga Samayagam Jagada Manuyo Yada Dakshatmanaha.
To create different planetary systems, I had to undergo austerities and penance, and the Lord, thus being pleased with me, incarnated in 4 sanas: Sanaka, Sanatkumara, Sanandana, and Sanatana. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, but the 4 sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages.
Text 6. Dharmasya daksuduhitarya janishtamrutraya Narayano nara iti swatapa prabhavaha Drustuvatmano bhagavato niyamavapalopam Davya stavansta putana gatitum na sekuha.
To exhibit his personal way of austerity and penance, he appeared in twin forms as Narayana and Nara in the womb of Murti, the wife of Dharma and the daughter of Daksha. Celestial beauties, the companion of Cupid, went to try to break his vows, but they were unsuccessful, for they saw that many beauties like them were emanating from him, the personality of Godhead.
Text 7. Kama dahanti krutino nanu dosa drastaya dosam hantama mutate na dahayantashayam soyam yadantaram malam pravishanam vibreti kama katham na punurasya manasa sreyata.
Great stalwarts like Lord Shiva can, by their wrathful glances, overcome lust and vanquish him, yet they cannot be free from the overwhelming effects of their own wrath. Such wrath can never enter into the heart of Him, the Lord, who is above all this. So, how can lust take shelter in his mind?
Text 8. Vidva sampanyudita patri birantiragno balo api sannupagat stapat stapasevanani tasma adata dhruva gatim gunati prasanno divyam stuvanti munayo yaduparya dastat.
Being insulted by sharp words spoken by the co-wife of the king, even in his presence, Prince Dhruva, though only a boy, took to severe penances in the forest, and the Lord, being satisfied by his prayer, awarded him the Dhruva planet, which is worshipped by great sages both upward and downward.
Text 9. Yadena mutapathagatam Dvijavakya Nishtaspadusta Paurushabhagam Niraye Patantam Tratvarthito Jagati Putra Padam Chalebe Lukta Vasuni Vasuda Sakalani Yena.
Maharaj Vena went astray from the path of righteousness, and the Brahmanas chastised him by the thunderbolt curse. By this, King Vena was burnt with his good deeds and opulence, and was en route to hell. The Lord, by his causeless mercy, descended as his son by the name of Prithu, delivered the condemned King Vena from hell, and exploited the earth by drawing all kinds of crops as produce.
Text 10. Nabherasa Vrushaba Asa Sudevi Shunu Yo Veva Chachara Samdroga Jada Yoga Charyama Yat Param Hansya मुषय पदमा मनन्तित स्वस्थ प्रशान्तकरण परिमुक्त सङ्गः.
The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi, the wife of King Nabi, and was known as Rishabdev. He performed materialistic yoga to equilibrate the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in one's self and is completely satisfied.
Text 11. सत्रे ममास भगवान हयशिरशास्तो साक्षात् स यज्ञपुरुष स्ततपनियवर्णः छन्दोमयमखमयो अखिलदेवतात्मा वाचो भृभु वाचो भृभुवुरु सति स्वस्थो अस्य नस्तः.
The Lord appeared as the Hayagriva incarnation in a sacrifice performed by me, Brahma. He is the personified sacrifices, and the whole of his body is golden. He is the personified Vedas as well, and the supersoul of all demigods. When he breathed, all the sweet sounds of the Vedic hymns came out of his nostrils.
Text 12. मत्स्यो युगान्तसमये मनुनोपलब्ध श्रोणीमयो निखिलजीव निकायकेतः विश्वशशितानुरुभये सलिले मुखामने आदाय तत्र विजाहारः देवमार्गान्.
At the end of the millennium, the would-be Vaivasvatamanu of the name Satyavrata would see that the Lord in the fish incarnation is the shelter of all kinds of living entities, up to those in the earthly planets. Because of my fear of the vast water at the end of the millennium, the Vedas come out of my Brahma's mouth, and the Lord enjoys those vast waters and protects the Vedas.
Text 13. शिरोददावमरदा नवयुथपाना मुन्मन्थताममृतलब्ध्य आदिदेवः पुष्टेन कञ्चपव पूर्वीदधारगोत्रं निन्द्राक्षणो अद्रिपरिवर्तक्षणाक्ष कुण्डकुः.
The primeval Lord then assumed the tortoise incarnation in order to serve as a resting place pivot for the Mandara mountain, which was acting as a churning rod. The demigods and the demons were churning the ocean of milk with the Mandara mountain in order to extract nectar. The mountain moved back and forth, scratching the back of Lord Tortoise, who, while partially sleeping, was experiencing an itching sensation.
Text 14. त्रयपिष्टपुरुभयाः स नृसिंहरूपं कृत्वा ब्रह्मदभृकुटरष्टकरालवक्रतं दैत्येन्द्रमासु गदया विपतन्तमारा दुरो निप्याद विरदारनके स्फुरनतम्.
The personality of Godhead assumed the incarnation of Nrsimhadev in order to vanquish the great fears of the demigods. He killed the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, who challenged the Lord with a club in his hand. By placing the demon on his thighs and piercing him with his nails, rolling his eyebrows in anger and showing his fearful teeth and mouth.
Text 15. अन्तःसरस्युरबलेन पदे गृहीतो ग्राहेण युथपतिर्भुजहस्त आर्तः आहेदमादिपुरुषाखिललोकनाथः तीर्थस्रवश्रवणमङ्गला नामधेय.
The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by a crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted.
Text 16. Srutva haris हरिस्तमर्णाथि नम प्रमेय चक्रायुध पतगराजभुजाधिरूढः चक्रेण नक्रबन्धनं विनिपाट्य तमसा दश्यते प्रज्ञते भगवान् कृपयोजहार.
The personality of Godhead, after hearing the elephant's play, felt that the elephant needed his immediate help, for he was in great distress. This at once the Lord appeared there on the wings of the king of birds, Garuda, fully equipped with his weapon, the wheel chakra. With the wheel he cut to pieces the mouth of the crocodile to save the elephant, and he delivered the elephant by lifting him by his trunk.
Text 17. जयायान गुरेव्रज जोयप्यदिति सुतानां लोकानां विचक्रम इमानयदाथि यज्ञ समवानेन च गृहे त्रिपदच्छलेन यच्चामृते पथि चरणं प्रभुभिः चालय.
The Lord, although transcendental to all material modes, still surpassed all the qualities of the sons of Aditi, known as the Adityas. The Lord appeared as the youngest son of Aditi, and because he surpassed all the planets of the universe, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. On the pretense of asking for a measurement of 3 footsteps of land, he took away all the lands of Bali Maharaj. He asked simply because without begging, no authority can take one's rightful possessions.
Text 18. नार्थो बलेरय मुरुक्रम पादशौच मामसिखा द्रुतव्रतो विबुधाधिपत्यं यो वे प्रतिश्रुतमृते न चिकीर्षदन्यं दात्मनामंग मनसा हरिये अभिमेन.
Bali Maharaj, who put on his head the water washed from the lotus feet of the Lord, did not think of anything beside his promise. In spite of being forbidden by his spiritual master, the king dedicated his own personal body to fulfill the measurement of the Lord's third step. For such a personality, even the kingdom of heaven, which he conquered by his strength, was of no value. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, forgive me if I have made many mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you so much for that wonderful recitation. I'll try to share the presentation slides, the PowerPoint slides. Can you see them on the screen now?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So we'll recite the prayers first and then discuss today's verses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agnanatimirandhasya Gnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं कृष्णचैतन्य ईश्वरम् नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयामुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके ततां प्रसङ्गान् मम वीर्यसंविदो भवन्ति हृत्कर्णरसायना कथाः तज्जोषनादाशपवर्गवर्त्मनि श्रद्धा रतिर्भक्तिरनुक्रमिष्यति My humble obeisances to all the assembled devotees. I welcome you to Chad Plus Chapter a Day Srimad Bhagavatam. And today, with the blessings of Guru and Gauranga and Acharya and Srila Prabhupada, we will start the 7th chapter. Canto 2, Chapter 7 is entitled Scheduled Incarnations with Specific Functions. And just to get a summary, first 39 verses are discussions, a brief description of various incarnations of the Lord, the Leela Avataras. Then secondly, 40 to 46 verses is about how it is impossible to understand the greatness of Vishnu without his mercy. Then the third section is 47 to 49 verses. Bhagwan is superior to Paramatma and Brahman. And lastly, last section, last 4 verses is dissemination of this knowledge. So today's verses are first 3 verses. And here we can see that in the last chapter, chapter 6, Brahma answered all the questions of Narad Muni. And he also described the activities of the Purusha Avtaras. What are the Purusha Avtaras? Mahavishnu, that is Karanadakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Shirodakshay Vishnu. And they manage the universal material creation. They manage that. And thus now, Brahma says to Narad Muni, he has described Purusha Avtaras. Now he will describe prominent Leela Avtaras of the Lord. And thus Brahmaji will summarize them here. Also, I just wanted to mention that when we study chapter 6, there are some important key points that when we study that chapter, what it does to us is two things. It should make us humble. It should make us humble for two reasons. Firstly, the chapter highlights a lot that we cannot understand the Virat Rupa completely, right? Because it was very technical subject to understand what is this Virat Rupa. And because it is a temporary manifestation of the Lord, but at the same time it is bona fide and but difficult to understand. So that should make us humble. And secondly, Brahma himself is so humble because we can see in 6th chapter, I think there are about more than 10 verses where he says that he cannot understand the Lord completely. although he sings his glories, Narad Muni sings his glories, Prahlad Maharaj sings Lord's glories, Dhruv Maharaj, even Shukdev Goswami. But different devotees, they relish the forms and avatars of the Lord. Although they do so, they cannot understand glories of the Lord completely. Even Lord himself hardly knows himself fully. So we can describe about Lord's glory to the degree our understanding goes, or what we have heard from Acharya, Yatha Shrutam Yatha Mati, right? But that also will be only like a drop of Lord's oceanic glories. So we cannot fully describe or understand the Lord. And because when we read 6 chapters and we sometimes think that Lord's Virat Roop is the ultimate, but Brahma says here that no, this form is only in the material world, and there is no planet for Virat Roop in the spiritual world. But there are millions of other avatars of the Lord who have their own planets in spiritual world, and they keep coming to this material world every now and then, and they are the incarnations or avatars. So now in this 7th chapter, Brahma will describe very concisely and very briefly. So this 7th chapter, first 39 verses are just descriptions of unlimited incarnations of Lord, his Leela Avtaras, Manvantaras, Shaktiavesh Avtaras are described. And Brahma gives a small compact version of Krishna book as well in 10 verses, where he will describe Krishna Leela. So thus we should not think that Virat Rupa is ultimate. It is actually the lowest above Virat Rupa is the Leela Avtara, Guna Avtara, Purusha Avatar, Shaktiavesh Avatar, Manvantara, and Yuga Avtara. So these are the 6 categories, and completely Supreme Personality of Krishna he is the source of all these avatars. All that is described in this chapter very briefly, and elaborate descriptions will come throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. So 7th chapter is like a contents table. And I just wanted to mention these are the Leela mentioned in the first 39 verses. And because I heard about this lecture and what it is, where this in Leela Avtaras will come in Srimad Bhagavatam, so I wanted to briefly just mention where which Leela Avatar is described again in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we read the purports of Srila Prabhupada in Veda base, even if we are missing something now, this is just like a brief thing. So we should not worry that we are missing something, because we intend to study Bhagavatam together. So we will be studying all this in detail. For example, Varaha. Varahadev saved the earth, and he also called Hiranyaksha demon. And this Varahadev episode comes in Canto 3, chapter 13, 17, 18, and 19. Then Suyagna. He is son of Prajapati Ruchi and Akuti. His activities will come in Canto 8, Chapter 1, and his birth will come in Canto 4, Chapter 1. Then Kapila Dev. His birth is described in Canto 3, Chapter 24, and his teachings come in Chapter 25 to Chapter 33. And in 33rd chapter, his departure to Ganga Sagar is described, all in Canto 3. Thereafter, Dattatreya. So his descriptions comes in Canto 4, Chapter 1. And 4 Kumaras will be Canto 3, Chapter 12, where their birth is mentioned. And again in Canto 4, Chapter 21 and 22, 4 Kumaras will give teachings to Prithu Maharaj. Then Nar Narayan Rishi. This is in the 6th and 7th verse. Oh yes, and 4 Kumaras also curse Jai Vijaya, that comes in Canto 3, Chapter 15 and 16. Nar Narayana. So they come in Canto 4, Chapter 1, and Canto 11 also. There is an episode with the Cupid, where the Cupid and his associates come to distract Nar Narayan Rishi, but instead they give produce from their thighs beautiful Urvashi, and they give very good hospitality and offer him fruits and everything to Cupid. So Cupid was actually ashamed that he came to distract them on Narayan Rishi, but this is the glory of them that nothing can distract them. Thereafter, it is Prishni Garbha, Canto 4, Chapter 9. They come to bless Prince Dhruva. Prithu Maharaj, Canto 4, Chapter 15 to 23rd chapter. The pastimes comes. He is the Shakti-Avesh avatar of Supreme Lord. Then verse 10 talks about Rishabdev. That is described in Canto 5, Chapter 4, 5 and 6. And 7th onwards is Bharat Maharaj episode. Hayagriva is very briefly mentioned in Canto 5, Chapter 18, I think. Matsyavatara pastime is in Canto 8, Chapter 24. Kurma Avatara, fish incarnation, Canto 8, Samudra Manthan. Narsimadev, Canto 7, Chapter 8, 9 and 10. Then Hari. Hari is the Lord, form of the Lord who comes to save Gajendra. Canto 8, Chapter 2, 3, 4. Then Vamanadev will be discussed in Canto 8, Chapter 16 to 23. That is the Bali and Vamandev pastime. Then Hamsavatara comes in Canto 11. Dhanvantari, Canto 8, Samudra Manthan episode. Also, verse 20 talks about Manvantara avatar, which is described in Canto 8. Parshuram, Canto 9. Lord Ramchandra, Canto 9, Chapter 10 and 11. Lord Krishna, 26 to 35 verses talks about Lord Krishna. So, briefly, Brahmaji will explain the pastimes. And that is Canto 10, 90 chapters, Canto 3, Chapter 2 to 4, and Canto 11, 31 chapters of Uddhav Gita. Then Vyasadev, Canto 1 itself, and many other places in Bhagavatam. Buddha, very little bit in Canto 1 is mentioned. Kalki Avatar, Canto 12, and Gunavataras, Canto 2, 3, and also at many places in Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is how in detail they are described throughout Bhagavatam, but here it is very brief and we will read along with the purports of Srila Prabhupada, and if time permits we can discuss something. So 2.7.1 Brahmovacha Yatrodhyatah Shiti Talodharanaya Bibrat Kraudim Tanum Sakala Yagnamai Manantaha Antarmaharnava Upagatam Adidaityam Tam Drishtayadrim Iva Vajradharo Dadaram. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Brahma said, when the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime just to live the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called the Garbhodaka, the first demon Hiranyaksha appeared and the Lord pierced him with his tusk. So we know that Varaha Avatar will come, Shwet Varaha, whose complexion is whitish like moon. He appeared from Brahma's nostril in Swayambhu Manvantara, and his activity was to lift the earth from Garbhodak ocean. And in the same chapter, in third canto, 13th chapter, Neela Varaha is also mentioned, who is another Varahadev with blue complexion. He appeared from the water in Chakshusha Manvantara. He also lifted the earth as well as he killed Hiranyaksha. And these two Varahadev, Shwet Varaha and Neel Varaha, its transition comes in the 31st verse in the chapter. So at that time, when we discuss, it will come in detail. And for now, we will read the purport also of first verse and second and third verse as well. I'll share the Veda base. Can you see the Veda base on the screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. So the first verse, purport, is since the beginning of creation, the demons and the demigods or the Vaishnavas are always the two classes of living beings to dominate the planets of the universes. Lord Brahma is the first demigod, and Hiranyaksha is the first demon in this universe. Only under certain conditions do the planets float as weightless balls in the air. And as soon as these conditions are disturbed, the planets may fall down in Garbhodaka ocean, which covers half the universe. The other half is the spherical dome within which the innumerable planetary systems exist. The floating of the planets in the weightless air is due to the inner constitution of the globes and the modernized drilling of the earth to exploit oil from within is a sort of disturbance by the modern demons and can result in a greatly harmful reaction to the floating condition of the earth. A similar disturbance was created formerly by the demons headed by Hiranyaksh, the great exploiter of the gold rush, and the earth was detached from its weightless condition and fell down into the Garbhodaka ocean. The Lord, as maintainer of the whole creation of the material world, therefore assumed the gigantic form of a boar with a proportionate snout and picked up the earth from within the water of Garbhodaka. Sri Jayadeva Goswami, the great Vaishnava poet, sang as below. वसति दशनशिखरे धरणी तव लग्ना शशिनी कलङ्ककलेव निमग्ना केशवधृता शुकररूपा जय जगदीश हरे. O Keshava, O Supreme Lord, who have assumed the form of a boar, O Lord, the planet Earth rested on your tusks, and it appeared like the moon engraved with spots. Such is the symptom of an incarnation of the Lord. The incarnation of the Lord is not the concocted idea of fanciful men who create an incarnation out of imagination. The incarnation of the Lord appears under certain extraordinary circumstances like the above mentioned occasion, and the incarnation performs a task which is not even imaginable by the tiny brain of mankind. The modern creators of the many cheap incarnations may take note of the factual incarnation of God as the gigantic boar with a suitable snout to carry the planet Earth. When the Lord appeared to pick up the earth, the demon of the name Hiranyaksh tried to create a disturbance. Methodical functions methodical functions of the Lord, and therefore he was killed by being pierced by the Lord's tusk. According to Shilajiv Goswami, the demon Hiranyaksh was killed by the hand of the Lord. Therefore, his version is that after being killed by the hand of the Lord, the demon was pierced by the tusk. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms this version. So here Varahadev episode is mentioned very briefly, and his form of all the sacrifices. Varahadev is a form of all the sacrifices because when Lord spoke the Vedas, Brahma inhaled it, and then when Brahma exhales, the boar form of the Lord comes out from his nostrils. So that is why he is Varahadev is also called Ved Vitanamurti. And this will come in third canto, 13th chapter, where in 26th verse, Varahadev is called Ved Vidanmurti because Varahadev is expansion or incarnation of Lord Vishnu, who is personification of all the Vedas. Lord Krishna empowered Brahma with the knowledge of the Vedas. This verse, Tene Brahmaridayadi Kavaye Muhyanti Surya, right? So Brahma got all the Vedic knowledge from the Lord, and Vedas are considered the breath of the Lord. So Vedas come out when Lord breathed, Vedic hymns comes out when, Garuda flaps his wings. And this Vedic knowledge came from Krishna to Brahma, and Brahma inhaled it. And when Brahma was contemplating, when Swayambhuva Manu comes to him, he has to start the population and progeny. He says, but the earth is, gone in the Garbhodaka ocean. First, we need to retrieve it for me to do my service. And Brahma is contemplating what to do and how to do. And at that time, only as he was meditating on the Lord, Varahadev came out of his nostrils. So Vedas originally came from Krishna, entered in Brahma through his breath, and now from that nostril, when he breathed in Veda, same nostril Varahadev emanated. So Vedas entered the nostrils of Brahma and came out as Varahadev. Therefore, Varahadev is called Ved Vitana Murti. And also, Boar incarnation is considered personified Vedas, as Srila Prabhupada also says here. Vedas contain so many methods of sacrifices and yagnas, and thus Varahadev is also called Yagna Varaha. Varahadev's hair fell on different places on the planet and they grew up as kusha grass. And this kusha grass is even today utilized for sacrifice. So, therefore, sacrifices are said to be born of Varahadev's body. He is so huge that each bodily pore can fill hundreds of oceans. Varahadev's each bodily pore can fill hundreds of oceans, and all the seven oceans of Bhumandala, they cannot even fill one bodily pore of Varahadev. So we can imagine how huge he is. And the source of Varahadev is Krishna. As we can see here, Krishna is the, Ete Chamsha Kala Pumsa, Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. He is source of all the incarnations. And it is such a wonder that when Lord Krishna is a child, in Vrindavan, and Mother Yashoda bathes him with just one bucket of water. And he says, okay, go, your bath is over. And this is the Lord who is incarnation of Varahadev, whose one pore will also be not filled with all the oceans of Bhumandala. So this is the wonder, this is such an amazing thing about Krishna. It is truly said that it is not possible to understand this Lord, who is source of all this huge Varahadev, takes bath with just one bucket that Mother Yashoda uses and bathes him, and he's so happy. He's Bhakta Vatsala. He enjoys his reciprocation with his pure devotees in Vrindavan. And Lord is like that. He can become greater than the greatest, like Varahadev, and he can become smaller than the smallest. He can become like a human, take a human form, become a child in Vrindavan, and be just happy with his sweet pastimes. So that is Varahadev, and we will also see that there is two Varahas, and back to back they come in that chapter. So Lord Boar very easily took the earth on his tusks. When he retrieved the earth from Garbhodaka ocean and he got it out of the water, and he appeared so beautiful. It is described there, his anger glowing like the Sudarshan Chakra, and he immediately killed Hiranyaksha, although he tried to fight with the Lord. So first Varahadev that is mentioned, Shweta Varaha, will just lift the Garbhodaka ocean, and then the second Neela Varaha will also lift the earth from Garbhodaka ocean in Chakshusha Manvantara and kill Hiranyaksha also. So that is a brief summary of Varahadev. And our second verse is Jato Ruchira Janayat Suyaman Suyagna Akuti Sunuramaran Dakshinaayam Lokatrayasya Mahati Maharad Yadartim Swayam Bhuvena Manuna Harir Ityanuktaha. Translation: The Prajapati first begot Suyagna. So this second verse is about Suyagna, who is the son of Prajapati Ruchi and Akuti, and he is born to them. And then Suyagna begot demigods, headed by Suyama in the womb of his wife Dakshina. Suyagna, as the Indradev, diminished very great miseries in the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and intermediate. And because he so diminished the miseries of the universe, he was later called Hari by the great father of mankind, namely Swayambhuva Manu. So, in order to guard against the invention of unauthorized incarnations of God by the fanciful, less intelligent persons, the name of the father of the bona fide incarnation is also mentioned in the authorized revealed scriptures. No one, therefore, can be accepted as an incarnation of the Lord if his father's name as well as the name of the village or place in which he appears is not mentioned by the authorized scriptures. In the Bhagavad Purana, the name of the Kalki incarnation, which is to take place in almost 400,000 years, is mentioned. along with the name of his father and name of the village in which he will appear. A sane man, therefore, does not accept any cheap edition of any incarnation without reference to the authorized scriptures. Yes, so Kalki Avatar will it is in the 12th canto, and there already, which is yet to happen, is already mentioned there that which village he will appear, who will, the names of the father is also mentioned, who he will be born to. And so here Srila Prabhupada says that we cannot take just any edition of incarnation mentioned anywhere without any references to authorized scripture cannot be taken into account and it is not bona fide. That's what Srila Prabhupada says here. So Suyagna, the son of Prajapati Ruchi and Akuti, his main activities will be, he is mentioned as we said earlier in Canto 8, Chapter 1, and his birth will come in Canto 4, Chapter 1. He begot demigods headed by Suyama in the womb of Dakshina. And as Indra, he diminished the miseries in the three worlds. And he was also called Hari by Swayambhuv Manu. So these are some highlights of Suyagna. And then verse 3. Jagni chakardam gruhe dvijadevahutyaam stribhi samam navabhiratmagatim swamatre uche shamalam gunasangapankam asmin vidhuya kapilasya gatim prapede. The Lord then appeared as the Kapila incarnation, being the son of the Prajapati Brahman Kardama and his wife Devhuti, along with 9 other women, sisters. So he had 9 sisters. He spoke to his mother about self-realization, by which in that very lifetime she became fully cleansed of the mud of the material modes and thereby achieved liberation, the path of Kapila. Okay, so very long purport. I'll read first paragraph, then whoever wants to read from second, please unmute and read. The instructions of Lord Kapila to his mother Devhuti are fully described in the third canto, chapters 25 to 32 of Srimad Bhagavatam, and anyone who follows the instructions can achieve the same liberation obtained by Devhuti. The Lord spoke Bhagavad Gita, and thereby Arjuna achieved self-realization. And even today, anyone who follows the path of Arjuna can also attain the same benefit as Sri Arjuna. The scriptures are meant for this purpose. Foolish, unintelligent persons make their own interpretations by imagination and thus mislead their followers, causing them to remain in the dungeon of material existence. However, simply by following the instructions imparted by Lord Krishna or Lord Kapila, one can obtain the highest benefit even today. Someone wants to read? Second one?
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I read please? Thank you.
Yes, please, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat. The word Atma Gatim is significant in the sense of perfect knowledge of the Supreme. One should not be satisfied simply by knowing the qualitative equality of the Lord and the living being. One should know the Lord as much as can be known by our limited knowledge. It is impossible for the Lord to be known perfectly as He is, even by such liberated persons as Shiva or Brahma. So, what to speak of other demigods or men in this world? Still, by following the principles of the great devotees and the instructions available in the scriptures, one can know to a considerable extent the features of the Lord. His Lordship Kapila, the incarnation of the Lord, instructed his mother fully about the personal form of the Lord, and thereby she realized the personal form of the Lord and was able to achieve a place in the Vaikuntha Loka where Lord Kapila predominates. Every incarnation of the Lord has his own abode in the spiritual sky. Therefore, Lord Kapila also has his separate Vaikuntha planet. The spiritual sky is not void. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, and in each of them, the Lord, by his innumerable expansions, predominates. And the pure devotees who are there also live in the same style as the Lord and his eternal associates. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Anyone wants to read this paragraph?
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, please go ahead.
When the Lord descends personally or by his personal plenary expansions, such incarnations are called Amsha, Kala, Guna, Yuga, and Manvantara incarnations. And when the Lord's associates descend by the order of the Lord, such incarnations are called Sektavesha incarnations. But in all cases, all the incarnations are supported by the invulnerable statements of the authorized scriptures, and not by any imagination of some self-interested propagandist. Such incarnations of the Lord, in either of the above categories, always declare the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the ultimate truth. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is just a process of negation of the form of the Lord from the mundane conception of the Supreme Truth. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. And someone wants to read this part? Okay. The living entities by their... Yeah. Someone wants to read? Sorry.
Yeah, I can read it.
Please go ahead.
The living entities,
Mataji.
by their very constitution, are spiritually as good as the Lord, and the only difference between them is that the Lord is always supreme and pure, without contamination by the modes of material nature, whereas the living entities are apt to be contaminated by association with the material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. This contamination by the material modes can be washed off completely by knowledge, renunciation, and devotional service. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate issue, and therefore those who are directly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord not only acquire the necessary knowledge in spiritual science, but also attain detachment from material connection and are thus promoted to the kingdom of God by complete liberation, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita.
Mamchayo व्यभिचारेण भक्ति-योगेन सेवते सगुणान् समतीत्यैतान् ब्रह्म भूयाय kalpate. Even in the non-liberated stage, a living entity can be directly engaged in the transcendental loving service of the personality of Godhead Lord Krishna, or his planetary expansions like Rama and Narsimha. Thus, the a proportionate improvement of such transcendental devotional service, the devotee makes definite progress towards Brahma Gatim or Atma Gatim and ultimately attains Kapilasya Gatim or the abode of the Lord without difficulty. The antiseptic potency of devotional service to the Lord is so great that it can neutralize the material infection even in the present life of a devotee. A devotee does not need to wait for his next birth for complete liberation. Such a beautiful purport. So yes, Kapila Dev, it's a long episode in Canto 3. His birth is described in 24th chapter, and his elaborated teachings are in 7 chapters from 25th to 32nd chapter of third canto, and 33rd chapter his departure to Ganga Sagar is described, and all of that canto also, all those chapters also describes Kardama Muni and Devhuti's ideal household life, how a grihastha should live. And then they had 9 daughters. Also, Swayambhu Manu and his wonderful qualities are mentioned. Kardama Muni's beautiful qualities are mentioned. Devhuti's prayers will be there in 33rd chapter. And it's just a very wonderful episode in third canto. So when we come to that canto, we will definitely describe that. Discuss that, and just let me share the slides now. Thank you all for reading. Okay, so now after describing all this, Brahmaji will say, after describing all the, in short, the Leela Avataras of the Lord, he says that Krishna himself is source of them all. And finally, he will say that it is easy to count even atoms on this universe, on the earth. All the atoms together we can count. But it is not easy to count the glories or incarnations. That is the Nam, Rupa, Guna, Leela of Krishna, because his glories are innumerable. So while the atoms can be counted, it is impossible to know his material energies. The extent of his material energies we cannot understand. So what to speak of the extent of his spiritual energies? Because we studied, I think, in the 19th or 20th verse, right, about Ekpad and Tripad Vibhuti. So if Ekpad Vibhuti is material energy, which is a smaller part than three parts, if we can understand this material energy itself, because the extent is so far and wide and gigantic. So, what to speak of the spiritual energies? So, and he gives the example, Brahmaji gives the example. There's a beautiful verse in this chapter itself. In 41st verse, he says, he gives the example of Anantadev, that Nantam Vidamyaham Ami Munayo Grajaste Maya Balasya Purushasya Kutovaraye Gayan Gunandasha Satanan Adideva Shesho Dhunapi Samavasyati Nasya Param. So he says, Ananta Shesha, that neither I nor all the sages born before you know fully the Brahmaji says, omnipotent personality of Godhead. So what can others who are born after us know about him? Even the first incarnation of the Lord, namely Shesha, has not been able to reach the limit of such knowledge, although he is describing the qualities of the Lord with 10,100 faces. So all the faces are describing separate descriptions and glories and Nam, Rup, Gun, Lila and incarnations of the Lord since time immemorial, but he has not even come close to completely describing or even mentioning them all. What to speak about describing in detail, even to just enumerate them all, it's not possible or it's not complete. So in this way, Brahmaji says also that soul is satisfied only by pure Hari Katha, and that is, always anticipated, because soul will never be satisfied by material topics. That is why, because material sound can satisfy us just on a mundane plane, temporarily. Otherwise, there is always incompatibility, because we are by nature spirit soul. We are trying to find happiness in mundane material things, then it's never going to satisfy the spirit soul. So, to the degree we identify with material body, we will keep searching for material happiness, which is very flickering. And even in the 10th canto, first chapter, fourth verse, it says there that Nivritta Tarshe Rupagiyamanat Bhavaushada Shrotra Manobhiramat Ka Uttama Shloka Gunanuvadat Puman Virajyet Vina Pashugnat. The glorification of the Lord is performed in parampara system, and it's conveyed through the spiritual master to disciple. Such glorification is relished by those who are no longer interested in the false temporary glorification of this cosmic manifestation. Descriptions of the Lord are the right medicine for the conditioned soul undergoing repeated birth and death. Therefore, who will cease hearing such glorification of the Lord except a butcher or one who is killing his own soul, own self, Atmaha, right? Because if this human birth is not, utilized in this, then one is killing his own soul. So that is called Atmaha, killing his own soul. That is why these Leela Avataras and all these beautiful pastimes and incarnations of the Lord is the subject matter for us. Krishna comes to this world to give us this subject matter so we can discuss all this and the soul can feel the real happiness, because spirit soul will only find happiness in spiritual topics. And this is also one of my favorite verses in second canto. पिबन्ति ये भागवत आत्मनः सतां कथामृतं श्रवणपुटेषु संवृतं पुनन्ति ते विषयविदूषिताशयं व्रजन्ति तच्चरणसरोरुहान्तिकम्. Those who drink through oral reception fully filled with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna The beloved of the devotees purify the polluted aim of life known as material enjoyment and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of Him, the personality of Godhead. So these are some very beautiful, inspiring verses for us that we can recite and meditate on. So it will keep inspiring us to hear the remaining from the 4th verse to 39 verses. We have very beautiful all the incarnations, Leela Avtaras of the Lord mentioned briefly. So we can also, and there is also one beautiful prayer of Devhuti. It comes in 33rd chapter in this connection. यन्नामधेय श्रवणानुकीर्तनाद् यत्प्रहवणनाद् यत्स्मरणादपि क्वचित् स्वादोऽपि सद्य सवनाय कल्पते कुतस्पुनस्ते भगवन्नुदर्शनात्. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face. Even a person born in a family of dog eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him. So this also comes in 11th canto and also in Nectar of Devotion, that how the bhakti or pure devotional service can remove the the bijam of papa, or even when the karmas have manifested as prarabdha, they can also be changed by pure devotional service. If somebody is born in a very low caste also can qualify to do even deity worship by following the 4 regulations and chanting the holy names and taking to bhakti. Such is the beauty of bhakti and pure devotional service. So that's what Devhuti also says, that what to speak of just doing this following, and to say nothing of seeing the Lord face to face. So these are some of the very inspiring verses. Vidura says also to Maitreya Muni in the 3rd canto, 5th chapter, that he only requests him to talk about only the essence. Just talk about Krishna. I don't want to hear anything else, because Vidura first meets Uddhava, and Uddhava speaks about the incarnation, some things. And then thereafter he directs him to go to Maitreya Muni because Uddhava was younger than Vidura, so he did not want to break the Maryada. He wanted him to hear it from, because a younger person, even though qualified, sometimes will not preach to such an older person. It is called Maryada Vyatikrama. But then, so Maitreya Muni starts speaking to him, and Vidura requests him, just speak about Krishna. That is the only topic. Well, Maitreya Muni will only speak about Krishna only, but this shows such compatibility, like-mindedness of pure devotees. They only want to discuss about the Lord. And he says, Tadasya kaushara vasharmadatur hare kathamev kathasu saram udrutya pushpebhya ivarta bandho shivaya nah kirtaya tirtha kirte. O Maitreya, O friend of the distress, the glories of the Supreme Lord can alone do good for people all over the world. Therefore, just as bees collect honey from flowers, kindly describe the essence of all topics, the topics of the Lord. So this is how, and this Leela Avtaras also, I think in the 1st canto, 3rd chapter, there was a mention. And again, it will also be summarized briefly in 3rd canto. And again, it comes here. So 1st canto, 3rd chapter, as I think I remember, yes, 22 incarnations of Lord were mentioned there also, starting with the Kumaras and ending with the Kalki. So we can also look at that and read up Canto 1, Chapter 3. Yes, so here I would like to conclude. Sorry, I've taken 5 minutes more. If there are any realizations or anyone wants to add anything, otherwise we can complete here today. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, वंचा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Please forgive my mistakes if any. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for your blessing.
Thank
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
you for beautiful class.
Wonderful, wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for Hare Krishna.